The late afternoon sun, usually a cheerful beacon at dismissal, felt muted, almost ominous, as Davin pulled up to Crestwood Elementary. His breath hitched when he spotted 8-year-old Lily by the school gate. She was alone, a stark contrast to her usual boisterous reunions with friends. Typically, she'd be bouncing on the balls of her feet, wide gap-toothed grin splitting her face the moment she saw his car. Today, she stood unnervingly still, her small frame rigid, her shoulders slumped. Her expression was utterly blank, a chilling void where her usual vivacity resided. "Hey, sweet pea," he tried, his voice carefully light as she climbed into the passenger seat. The usual enthusiastic "Daddy" was absent. She simply buckled herself in, movements precise and deliberate, her gaze fixed on her knees, her blonde hair falling like a curtain around her face. The silence in the car was heavy, a suffocating blanket he desperately wanted to lift. "Rough day at school, huh, Lils?" he ventured, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She didn't respond, didn't even flinch, just that unwavering stare at her lap. Davin sighed, a knot tightening in his stomach. He usually knew how to coax her out of her moods, but this felt different, deeper. Perhaps, he reasoned, she just needed space. He decided to let the quiet settle, hoping the familiar rhythm of the drive home would somehow dissipate whatever gloom had claimed her. They drove past the sprawling, ancient expanse of Blackwood Forest, its dense canopy casting long, dark shadows across the road. Just as they passed the gnarled, sentinel-like oak that marked the forest's edge, a piercing, guttural shriek tore through the car's quiet. It wasn't Lily's usual high-pitched squeal of excitement or even a startled cry. This was raw, animalistic terror, ripping through the air. Davin, utterly blindsided, slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched, the car lurching violently to a halt by the side of the road. Before he could even register what had happened, before he could utter a single word, Lily's door flew open. With a terrifying burst of speed, she launched herself out of the car and bolted into the thick undergrowth of Blackwood. "Lily, no!" Panic, cold and sharp, seized Davin. These woods weren't just dense, they were notoriously wild, home to black bears, coyotes, and an almost impenetrable tangle of thorns and unseen ravines. He couldn't let her vanish into that dangerous wilderness. Without a moment's thought for his own safety, he fumbled with his seatbelt, threw open his door, and scrambled out, shouting her name. He saw her, a blur of pink and blonde, darting between ancient oaks, her small body unprotected as thorny brambles snagged at her dress, tearing at her skin. He winced, watching a thorny branch whip across her cheek, leaving a thin red line. She stumbled, her dress catching on a jagged root, sending her tumbling to the leaf-strewn ground, but she didn't cry out. She didn't pause. Instead, she scrambled up, not to her feet, but onto all fours. Her movements shockingly fluid, almost feral, as she continued to scurry deeper into the shadows, disappearing from his sight. "Lily!" His voice was hoarse, desperate, echoing through the silent woods. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and then a sound that froze the blood in his veins, a low, menacing growl, deep and resonant, followed by another, closer this time, a bear. A full-grown bear. The sound was unmistakably close to where Lily had vanished. A primal surge of terror and paternal instinct flooded him. Rationality vanished. He ran blindly, impulsively, directly toward the sound, crashing through the underbrush, thorns tearing at his clothes and skin. Nothing mattered but reaching her, pulling her from whatever danger lurked in the heart of Blackwood. He burst into a small clearing, skidding to a halt, his lungs burning, his eyes scanning wildly. And then he saw her. Lily stood in the center of the clearing, her small figure stark against the deepening twilight. Her pink dress, once bright, was now a shocking, horrifying canvas of crimson. Blood, so much blood, covered her from head to toe, dripping from her fingers onto the forest floor. Beside her, a hulking, mangled form lay twisted and still. It was a bear, a massive black bear, ripped apart with a horrifying, almost surgical precision. Its side was torn open, its guts spilling out onto the decaying leaves, a gruesome tableau of evisceration. It looked as if something had viciously, mercilessly torn into it with impossible strength. Davin gasped, the sound a strangled wheeze in his throat. His mind reeled, struggling to process the impossible, the grotesque reality before him. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Lily slowly, deliberately, turned from the grisly scene. Her eyes, no longer blank, held a chilling emerald gleam. She began to walk towards him, each step deliberate, unhurried. He registered that she seemed unhurt, unscathed, despite the carnage surrounding her. A wave of profound, disorienting relief washed over him, momentarily eclipsing the horror. He opened his arms, a desperate need to embrace her, to confirm she was truly safe. As she drew closer, emerging from the dappled shadows into the last sliver of fading light, a glint caught his eye. Something was hanging from her mouth. Something long, dark, and viscous.